Good day, I'm Theodore Henry, and this is your JIS News for Tuesday, July 23, 2024. Jamaica has received financial support from the Cayman Islands to assist Hurricane Beryl recovery efforts. Premier Juliana O'Connor Connolly made the contribution of $200,000 to Prime Minister Andrew Holness during a visit to his office on Thursday.
This is not a small contribution.
It's a deposit.
200,000 United States dollars. It's significant, and we appreciate it. And I can guarantee you that this will be used to assist the families who have been displaced and dislocated. In fact, this will go into our disaster preparedness fund.
Although this was a quick trip, just to extend a small token of gratitude for your country and yourself, we want to bring a more fulsome Cayman Airways overfilled to the brim. So when we go back, that's our job. We keep in mind my cabinet secretary. He's already been informed that his sleep is going to continue to diminish each night because we will return.
Premier O'Connor Connolly has also toured sections of Clarendon that were severely impacted by the hurricane. Meanwhile, in a gesture of solidarity, the government of Japan has extended a helping hand to Jamaica by donating essential relief supplies in the aftermath of Hurricane Beryl. This support, delivered through the Japan International Cooperation Agency, JICA, includes 220 large tents, 100 plastic sheets or tarpaulins, 1,000 sleeping pads, and 2,200 polyester tanks. Both governments signed a cooperation agreement for the supply of items and shared the importance of bilateral partnership to a country's development.
We have been working odiously together with our Jamaican counterparts to tackle environmental and climate change issues, as well as mitigating our vulnerabilities to natural disasters.
We rolled out the JICA communication system during the hurricane season, and I must tell you that we are pleased with the results of the system, and I want to use this opportunity to express much thanks and appreciation.
The Jamaica Public Service Company JPS is being warned not to inflate the bills of customers to recover losses sustained by Hurricane Beryl. Minister of Energy Darrell Vaz revealed last week that the power company could access contingency financing for this purpose through the Electricity Disaster Fund. He said the value of the fund was $50 million and the Office of Utilities Regulation, OUR, had approved a $5 million drawdown by the JPS.
The $50 million fund, which is built into the tariffs, is also specifically to make sure that those funds can be used by JPS, and JPS doesn't have to fund the recovery, which would drive up the price of electricity. So we can expect, based on the fact that they will be drawing down on this fund, that the OUR would not be in a position to approve any increase in JPS utility bills on the heels of Beryl.
After this was issued by Minister Vaz on Wednesday, the JPS on Friday issued a notice to customers that June-July bills may be estimated. This prompted another response from the minister, who indicated that estimated bills should be less than the previous bill, and the OUR would meet with the JPS this week to discuss the matter.
In relation to what can be done to ease the burden of the JPS customers, in relation to an extension on the timeline when the bill is due, some kind of moratorium, as Jamaican people are suffering. Most persons, especially in the affected areas and other areas, have lost their livelihoods due to farming and other activities that have been damaged severely. So I think it is, in my mind, a bit insensitive in the way they communicated that, especially in light of the fact that they still have a lot of work to do to restore electricity across the island. And as we speak, there are thousands of persons that still do not have light.
Minister Vaz says this is being monitored to ensure equity and justice for persons who are impacted by Hurricane Beryl. The Jamaica Constabulary Force JCF is reporting a continued downward trend in crime and violence. Between January 1 and June 30 this year, all categories of major offenses showed an overall 12% reduction. Murders went down by 14.5%, while there was a slight upward movement of 2% for shootings. A decline of 32% was registered for rape, with the downward trend continuing for robberies with 15% and 6% for break-ins. The details were presented by Commissioner of Police Dr. Kevin Blake last week at the Jamaica Constabulary Force's monthly press briefing. Another success, according to Dr. Blake, is an overall increase of 14% in the seizure of illegal firearms over the same period. This represents the removal of 422 illegal firearms from the streets and communities. While sounding a call for persons to report criminal elements, Dr. Blake says there are far more lawful and law-abiding persons in the country than the lawless and criminal among us.
The JCF urges anyone with information on the whereabouts of criminals to come forward as part of a collective effort to ensure justice and restore peace.
Commissioner Blake also warns perpetrators of crime that the JCF will be unrelenting in bringing them to justice.
We will disrupt your criminal activities and isolate you. We will come for you. When we do, we encourage you to lay down arms and surrender willingly. If you meet us with aggression, we will respond with superior force and we will win because we are smarter, we are better trained, and better resourced.
Still on crime, Police Commissioner Dr. Kevin Blake is also reporting the seizure of counterfeit goods worth billions of Jamaican dollars. This was done by the Intellectual Property Unit of the JCF between 2022 and 2024.
So pre-COVID, the JCF Intellectual Property Unit destroyed over $3 billion worth of counterfeit goods. Post-COVID, between 2022 and 2024, JCF seized approximately $3.35 billion worth of counterfeit goods. 14 persons were brought before the court and convicted for breaches of the Trademark Act, which resulted in over 10 million Jamaican dollars in fines imposed by the court.
The Intellectual Property Unit is within the Counterterrorism and Organized Crime Investigation branch of the JCF. It enforces intellectual property rights laws in Jamaica, primarily the Trademark Act, the Customs Act, and the Copyright Act. And finally, the public is being encouraged to share feedback or recommendations on the protected area policy as the government moves towards the finalization and implementation process. Persons have until July 30, 2024 to make their submissions to ermb@megjc.gov.jm with the subject line, Overarching Protected Areas Policy for Jamaica. You may also drop off your submissions to the Environment and Risk Management Branch at the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, 16A Halfway Tree Road, Kingston 5. The draft policy was approved by Cabinet and tabled in Parliament as a Green Paper in March of this year. It emphasizes the partnerships between entities responsible for regulating and managing protected areas, as well as the general public. Speaking at a virtual town hall meeting recently, Minister with responsibility for the environment, Senator Matthew Semuda, encouraged Jamaicans to let their voices be heard on the matter.
And to further refine the draft policy, we recognize the importance of engaging and educating Jamaicans about the importance of protected areas. By strengthening communication, education, and public awareness, we can foster a culture of conservation and secure the involvement of local communities and other key stakeholders.
Interested persons may watch the full town hall meeting on the Ministry and JIS's YouTube pages to learn more about the policy. The document can also be found on the Ministry's website at megjc.gov.jm. And that's it for JIS News today. I'm Theodore Henry. Thanks for watching.